Hey, this is Kevin Douglas, playing some vintage RUG Belcher. If we look at this hand, we've got Land Grant into Rite of Flame, Rite of Flame. It's 4 mana. We could empty the Warrens or cast Char Belcher. We don't have enough mana to activate Char Belcher with just the Land Grant. And an empty would be 1, 2, 3, 4. I think we're going to keep it just because it's turn 1. It is pretty soft to Mental Misstep. But hopefully catch the opponent off guard a little bit. So we'll go ahead and Land Grant. So this gives our opponent perfect information. They'll see our whole hand. We'll go Taiga. Go ahead and cast that. See if this gets Mental Misstepped. So if they're like a control deck, they're going to want a Mental Misstep one of those spells, because the empty they can't really counter. Even the Force of Will, it will still get, you know, a bunch of tokens. So we'll go ahead and F6 here. So what's nice here is this gives us 8 tokens, and we have a Lightning Bolt for next turn. So all it takes is like a single fetch land activation, and it's a 2-turn clock. So our opponent's taking some time to think about their first turn. I think with you know, what's left in our hand, we can cast a Lightning Bolt, but other than that, you know, the only things we have left are Empty the Warrens and Goblin Char Belcher. Unless we find like a Black Lotus, we're not going to be really doing anything over the next couple of turns. So we're kind of all in on these 8 goblins here. So kind of hoping this is the kind of deck that just wants to kind of, you know, play a land, set up like a, you know, start cantripping for the first turn or two, you know, holding up Force of Will or something. I.e. a deck that's just a little bit too slow to handle, you know, 8 goblins on turn 1. So there's that fetch land. If they can't kill any goblins or put a blocker down, if they activate that fetch land, it is a turn, like I said, like a 2-turn clock. But we see Chrome Mox here with the Hercules Recall. So I'm guessing we're playing Storm. And in that case, I think an Empty the Warren's hand with less than 20 goblins is probably just too slow. But hopefully, the fact that it took so long to think about their turn tells me maybe they don't have like an obvious line to win. Although Demonic Tutor is probably a good, is probably going to set them up well to go off next turn. So we might not actually, you know, have the time that we need to get in with these goblins twice. But they're taking some time to think about this Demonic Tutor as well. So again, you know, it's just a little bit encouraging because it makes me think that, you know, the win is not obvious. I mean, they know what our hand is. They know that we're all in on these 8 goblins and a Lightning Bolt. We're not going to be doing anything over the next couple turns, so other than attacking in. So I feel like if they had like, you know, just like a sure way to win, that they might not be kind of you know, sitting in the tank so long thinking about how they're going to set up their first turn and then what they're going to do with this Demonic Tutor. Of course, it is on Moto, so it could just kind of be like, you know, due to lag. Yeah, so they're taking a really long time here. I mean, I imagine if they have a bunch of mana rocks in their hand, they're probably waiting to cast them next turn. Maybe search for like a paradoxical outcome or something. So there's another lightning bolt. Yeah, so there's not much we can do except attack in. I suppose we'll lightning bolt just reduce their life total just in case they are on something like Necropentance or Yawgmoth's Bargain. They can't, spend too much life to draw cards. So they're down to 8. Even if they deal with a goblin or two, we do have the lightning bolt. Go ahead and F6 here to try to finish them off. So we'll see if we just ended up being a turn too slow. They don't have 4 mana for a paradoxical outcome yet, unless they want to crack the Black Lotus, which of course I think they'd rather return to their hand and play again. So there's 2 blue, 3 blue, Time Twister. So not much help for us. I mean, not that we need it. We have lethal on the board. I think if they pass the turn, then we're probably winning. We did find a bolt again. Land Grant. We could find our Tropical Island, Brainstorm. Maybe we find like a payoff spell. But I think, basically we just needed the pass turn, and I think we've won this game. They haven't made a land drop. They saw 7 new cards, and they still have this Black Lotus available. Tolarian Academy is a great find for them. So it seems like they'd have plenty of mana. There's Mana Vault. Tap it down. They've got 5 mana now. Soul Ring. So my guess is we're going to see a paradoxical outcome here. It's possible that they could still fizzle. But with 13 cards, a lot of mana. And with Mox Opal, they still have access to colored mana. Same thing with Black Lotus, Mox Sapphire. So unless they've just drawn really poorly with that Time Twister and the Paradoxical Outcome, I think it's just a matter of them going through the motions and showing us their win condition. But they're already at Storm 10. They might try to get another Storm counter or two, just in case we have like a Force of Will. They haven't seen our whole deck or anything like that, so they don't know that we don't run any counter magic. Unfortunately, I think I'm coming down with a little bit of a cold or something. I think I can thank one of my sons for that. All right, so lots of mana. Might see another paradoxical outcome here. Opponent might be kind of new to the deck. It is taking them a little while to go through everything. I've definitely played much quicker Storm opponents. So you have Storm count 18. I mean, unless they need to grape shot us or just keep digging. Yeah, so there we go. So that should be a Tendrils. so we'll go ahead and concede that. Honestly, we could have probably conceded a little while before that, but you know, there's always a chance that they can fizzle. And against this kind of deck, you know, they might be kind of light on counter magic because you know they want you know, to combo off themselves, and so most of their deck is built towards comboing off and not necessarily like playing the control game. Not sure if they're gonna have Force of Will. Honestly, it's been like a little while since I've played a deck list, so I don't really think I have much in the graveyard or in the sideboard except for maybe Pyroblast. That would be good. I'm not really sure what I'd want to take out for that because I mean, Empty's not the worst against Storm on the play. You know, it was a turn too slow there. Kind of the same thing with Storm Entity. It's kind of like, is the Pyroblast better than, you know, like for instance, Storm Entity or the Empty the Warrens? It probably is. You can catch them on a Paradoxical Outcome or like a Time Twister. So I think we'll take the Storm Entities out, put in a couple Pyroblasts. You know, they probably have Yawgmoth's Will, so, you know, Ravenous Trap might be good, Grafter's Cage might be okay, but I think they're going to be kind of situational just based on, you know, what the opponent's able to do. Like, they didn't have to use their graveyard for this game, so, you know, it's possible I just bring those cards in and they don't stop them from going off. So we have a Chrome Mox. One of these cards we can discard for red mana. And a Rite of Flame puts us at 2. We're just a little bit of mana short. But we do have the Pyroblast. But we're not quite there. We're like 1 mana source away from playing a Goblin Charbelcher. And even if we do, we don't have enough like reusable mana to probably activate it. So I think I'm going to try to mulligan for something a little faster than this hand. So there we have a Land Grant, Rite of Flame, Gitaxian Probe. I think I'll keep. I don't want to go too low. We can put that card at the bottom. I'll get Gitaxian Probe to make use of that Scribe, but then we'll have to, you know, Land Grant and reshuffle. So I think what I want to do here is try to get to a Time Twister. And unfortunately, I think we're maybe not quite there. And so actually I might want to hang on to this Land Grant. So that, they do have a Force of Will. Fortunately, if they want to play that Chrome Mox, they have to use one of their blue cards probably because they're not going to want to use the Demonic Tutor. So I'm going to take a quick snapshot of that. See what we draw. Lightning Bolt is not ideal. That's actually something we probably should have sided out. We should have left in the Storm Entities and sided out Lightning Bolt. And I think to kind of make use of that Scry, I'm just going to pass here. There's no need to, you know, show them Land Grant. I'll just kind of put this here real quick. So we're kind of reminded what they have. So they're not quite set up to go off. They don't have, you know, 3 artifacts to turn on Mox Opal. So they're going to get to see what we have. And now they don't have a blue card for Force of Will. Unless they drew one. You know, they've seen 2 cards now with the Gitaxian Probe draw and the draw for their turn. So it's possible they have a blue source, but if I'm able to go for it next turn, I definitely will. And so next turn, in a pinch, I guess we could always land grant for the tropical island and then nature's claim something. We would have to find some red mana eventually to play Rite of Flame. But with 4 semi-spirit guides, 3 more land grants, our dual land, Lotus Petals, it's not like out of the question. So they're going to run out a couple artifacts. Based on their hand, so it looks like they played the Mox Opal. Lotus Petal was their draw. So here's the Chrome Mox. We'll see if they actually imprint anything, because I might not want to imprint that Force of Will or the Demonic Tutor. Yeah, so it looks like they're going to hold on to those. Does turn on the Mox Opal. And so what they could do is Demonic Tutor this turn. Yeah, so there's an Underground Sea for black. Although, I mean, they had the Mox Opal, so they could have made black with the Mox Opal and gotten any dual land. If they're going to Demonic Tutor here. So there's the Demonic Tutor. And now I am a little bit tempted to Nature's Claim this Mox Opal. They have so the only card I think that we haven't seen so far is this Flooded Strand and the Force of Will. So we know they got Flooded Strand, Force of Will, whatever they drew, and then whatever they looked for with their Demonic Tutor. So 2 known cards, 2 unknown cards. So there's Mana Crypt. That does give us 3 mana for a Time Twister if we want to go for it. The opponent, we have seen Force of Will, but I don't know how heavy they are in blue. You know, and so they'd have to obviously draw the Force of Will and a blue card to try to counter us. So I think we just go for it this turn. With the Time Twister. We could also Nature's Claim the Mox Opal, hope it buys us a turn. See 1 more draw. I don't necessarily hate that. So we're going to find a tropical island. That gets us the Time Twister, but also gets us Nature Claim. And so I think we're going to go ahead and Nature's Claim this Mox Opal. Just in case they do try to like Paradoxical Outcome. I mean, it might be right that we should have just tried to go for this turn, but I don't mind seeing another card if I feel like this Nature's Claim buys me that extra turn. So we would probably get punished though if they went and found Yawgmoth's Will, because they will have the mana to cast that. Get their Mox Opal, although they'd have to sacrifice the Lotus Petal to do that. So the Mox Opal actually wouldn't come back in active. So the opponent fetched up a Volcanic Island. 3 mana available, 4 cards in hand. It's possible I probably should have gone for it last turn with the Time Twister. but I just kind of wanted that one extra card and thought that I was buying myself a turn with that Nature's Claim. So the opponent's tapping for blue. Not sure what they're doing. Looks like they're not sure what they're doing. Looks like they're just going to pass. So 4 cards. They might hold up Force of Will. Another land grant is actually very good for us. So if we run out the Mana Crypt, try to cast Time Twister, land grant. We're still only at 2 mana with the yeah, actually we're like a turn away from. I think we try to run out this Goblin Charbelcher, and if they counter it, then we can try to Time Twister next turn. I don't think we necessarily have to try to Time Twister them into a winning hand. So, see if this Mana Crypt resolves. Go ahead and play Charbelcher, and then they basically just have to win their next turn. And I think if they Force of Will here, that's not the worst thing in the world. It does make them, they did have to exile a Windfall. And they're down to 2 cards, so depending on what they have in hand, they might not have enough to start going off themselves. So there's Grim Monolith. 2 cards left in hand. And so they're going to pass. We'll start flipping for Mana Crypt. So Tails never fails. Rite of Flame was an excellent draw here, so I think we're just going to try to start going off here. So a couple Rite of Flames. I do think I'm going to bolt them. And then we use the Mana Crypt mana for the Time Twister, obviously. Keep that red up. So it's a little bit risky, I mean, because they're, down to 2 cards. Obviously, they couldn't do anything like last turn. So we're going to draw them in a new hand. And they're actually going to Force of Will that. So with a Paradoxical Outcome. So unfortunately, it just kind of puts us both with without much going on. Fortunately, I do have the mana to cast the Charbelcher if I can find one, or if I can find a Goblin Welder. That would also be a good draw. Go ahead and F6 here. And then I can try to weld this Charbelcher back into play. So fortunately, the way our hand is shaped up so far is we have the mana to kind of take advantage of any of the cards we draw. So if we get like Ancestral or Seething Song is not terrible there. Definitely sets us up for casting a Charbelcher. So they're going to preordain. That's a little bit of a bummer when we're both kind of hell-bent. the opponent's ability to manipulate their deck, you know, compared to ours is going to give them a little bit of an advantage if we're both digging to put our respective combos back together. Gonna play out a Mana Crypt. Tells me they probably found something worth casting. Otherwise, I don't know. I don't think they would waste the storm. So I'm gonna go ahead and Seeding Song here in case I find a Pyroblast. Or two, but I did not. And this hand's actually pretty terrible. I wouldn't mind if they played another draw 7 spell. Actually, Noxious Revival is a pretty good draw here. If we grab Belcher, we've got 4 mana to cast it and 3 mana to activate it. So that actually wasn't the worst thing in the world. But it looks like they're probably going to Paradoxical Outcome here. It does make me wish that we had drawn one of those Pyroblasts. Or a Time Walk, okay. So I'm just going to F6 here. So there's Soul Ring. I'm not really sure why they would cast Soul Ring on their turn there. Seems like they have plenty of mana to cast it if they have a Paradoxical Outcome. You know, get the extra storm, but maybe they don't need it. Kind of a pretty deck. Looks like they have all, I don't know what they're called, inventions or whatever the premium versions of the reprints are called. They're going to go ahead and Mystical Tutor. Search your library for an instant sorcery card, reveal that card, shuffle your library, put that card on top of it. So when they go to draw, I might actually Noxious Revival something from their own deck. So here's a blue for Brainstorm. So unfortunately, my plan to Noxious Revival has been foiled because they're going to get to see the top 3 cards. They're going to have to find a blue source, though, if they want to cast that Paradoxical Outcome. They just spent their last one on a Brainstorm. And this Chrome Mox doesn't have anything imprinted. They are going to have, access to 10 cards. Or, I guess they already drew, so that 7 included the Brainstorm cards. So, yeah, there's their other source of blue. Here's another Paradoxical. It's always a little frustrating playing Storm. I mean, I realize the person might be new to the deck or something, but just when they take a really long time to beat you. You can see we're still at 16 minutes here. They're down to 7. And it's kind of one of those things where you know you're probably dead, but you just want to make sure that they've got it. It's kind of like in Modern when you're playing Scape Shift, and sometimes people concede and the opponent doesn't actually have enough mountains left in their deck to actually kill you. Same thing here. Sometimes I just like to make sure that they, actually have it. But I think in this case we're probably done. Although they've already played their land. They don't have any access to colored mana except for Lion's Eye Diamond, and I don't think they're going to want to discard their hand. So we might actually see another untap step here. No, so there's a Chrome Mox. There's their access to colored mana. They're going to have to exile a card. Looks like Flusterstorm, maybe. Don't need that anymore. Yeah, Flusterstorm. So 1 blue, Ancestral Recall. So I think this is game 2. If I'm not mistaken, if we win this one, I don't actually know that my opponent's going to have time to beat us. So, I want to make sure that I have priority here. I thought, so before I draw, I want a Noxious Revival. So there's stop on my turn. So we're going to go heads here. We better not move to draw. Go ahead and do Char Belcher. They don't have any access to blue, so they have to have Force of Will. We already see 1, 2, 2 in the graveyard. I don't know that I need to spend Phyrexian mana there, but so there's Char Belcher. We'll go ahead and cast Mox Jet. And I guess make it look like we're holding up Pyroblast, but they're going to counter this if they can. So we are actually going to get to Belcher them. So crazy. I did not think I was going to win there, but kind of like I said, it's, that's kind of why you make them play it out. So kind of thinking back, talked about Lightning Bolts, taking those out. I mean, Ancient Grudge is probably better than Lightning Bolt in this deck. You can actually kind of get your opponent with an Echoing Truth off a Paradoxical. Oh no, I'm thinking Hurkyl's Recall. Might want to bring in Grafdigger's Cage. Instead of Lightning Bolt, or actually maybe just Storm Entity. I think we'll go Storm Entity. And just kind of hoping for a good first turn here. Don't have a whole lot of time to set anything up against the opponent. So this, I think, would be a turn 1 if they have no interaction. Because we've got 5, 6, 7 mana, which is enough to cast Goblin Char Belcher and then Belch. So we're going to go ahead and keep. Opponent's mulligan to 6. Obviously, the more that they mulligan, the less interaction they could have. Going down to 5. We did see Flusterstorm imprinted on a Chrome Mox last game. So we know they're packing Flusterstorm. They're going to play Scalding Tarn. What we want to see is them use this mana. So there's Mox Opal. So we'll go ahead and fetch. They don't have the Mox Opal active yet, but they might be using this to cast like a Soul Ring or something. So this is Grim Monolith. 1 card left. They do have enough to Paradoxical if that 1 card is a Paradoxical Outcome. So they are going to Paradoxical Outcome for 2. They don't have enough mana to recast that Grim Monolith. Unless they drew into some. Alright, so it looks like they got 2 new cards, but unless they are both blue and one of them is a Force of Will, we are going to get to Belch here. So we'll go ahead and run out these mana rocks. Seething Song. Lotus Petal. So I mean they could have Mind Break Trap too. That's a card that they might sideboard in. So we're gonna Manamorphose here. And I might just make one blue, just in case we draw like a Paradoxical Outcome or a Ancestral Recall or something, or a Brainstorm. But for the most part, we'll just keep it red. There's a Noxious Revival. Don't need that. So go ahead and run out the Belcher, and I think the Noxious Revival on the Chrome Mox. Well, I mean, we don't need it. So actually, maybe we want to save this Noxious Revival for... Well, I guess we don't really need it for Seeding Song or Manamorphose. It would just tap for green. I think we'll save it. So I'll just go ahead and use this Lotus Petal. Actually, I'm going to save that Lotus Petal in case we need the colored mana. So we do run 2 lands. It's possible this won't be lethal, but it looks like the lands are all at the bottom. So, wow, kind of didn't expect to win that one after that game too. But fortunately, we had the opponent, I believe, Time Twisted or maybe Wheel of Fortune us into enough mana to cast a Belcher and win when they fizzled on their Storm turn. And then we just had a turn 1 on this game with the opponent on a mull to 5. They were able to Paradoxical Outcome, but weren't able to keep their Storm going. So kind of interesting game. It was a little bit long. The opponent was playing a little bit slower. Like I said, maybe they were new to the deck or something. But I always love winning with Belcher, especially against decks that run like Force of Will and Fluster Storm.